Three human teenagers walked slowly through the strange ruins on planet Kepler 186f, far from the safety of New Austin Colony. Jack Collins kicked a small rock with his worn boot, watching it bounce across the ancient stone floor. "Check this out," he called to his friends, pointing at symbols carved into a tall pillar. The 16-year-old boy ran his fingers over the markings, fascination clear on his young face. Olivia Martinez adjusted her backpack and moved closer to examine the writing. "These don't match any human language. Must be from the original builders." "Maybe it's a warning," said Noah Williams with a nervous laugh. He was the cautious one of the group, always looking over his shoulder. Like keep out or die, or something. The three friends had only planned a quick adventure outside the settlement boundary. They didn't know they had crossed into Xantari territory, where the alien species carefully protected all archaeological sites. "We should take pictures for my science project," Jack said, pulling out his small camera. "Mrs. Johnson will give me extra credit for sure." Just as he raised the device, bright lights suddenly flooded the chamber. The teens froze, shielding their eyes from the glare. "Remain where you are," commanded a voice that wasn't human. Four tall figures entered the ruins, their blue skin reflecting the light. Each had four eyes that blinked in different patterns. "Xantari security," whispered Olivia, her voice tight with worry. The tallest alien stepped forward. "You have entered restricted space and touched protected artifacts. Identify yourselves." Jack swallowed hard. "We're just students from the colony. We didn't know this was your territory. We were exploring." "Your ignorance of boundaries does not remove your responsibility," the Xantari commander interrupted. His name badge identified him as Vexlor. "All three of you will be detained for processing." Noah stepped back. "You can't arrest us. We're just kids." The Xantari commander tilted his head, clearly confused by this statement. "Your physical development stage is irrelevant to your violations." Two security officers moved toward the teenagers, holding restraint devices. "Wait," Olivia said, trying to sound calm. "We need to tell our parents where we are. They'll be worried when we don't come home." "Communication will be permitted after processing," Vexlor stated flatly. "Please enter the transport vehicle without resistance." The teens exchanged worried glances as they were led outside to a sleek silver vehicle hovering just above the ground. They had no choice but to climb inside. As the doors sealed with a soft hiss, Noah leaned close to his friends. "My mom is going to absolutely lose it when she finds out," he whispered. "She's head of colony security, remember?" Jack nodded glumly. "And my mom is the human ambassador to the Xantari. This is going to be a diplomatic nightmare." Olivia stared out the window as the ruins disappeared from view. "My dad is the colony governor. He always warned me to respect boundaries." None of the Xantari officers seemed concerned about who the teenagers' parents were. They simply followed protocol, unaware that detaining these particular human children would soon create the biggest crisis in human-Xantari relations. The transport vehicle rose higher, speeding toward the Xantari security complex in the distance. Inside, three worried teenagers wondered how much trouble they were in. They had no idea that their adventure was about to trigger something much bigger than a simple punishment. Ambassador Elaine Collins was having a normal day at the diplomatic office. She studied a thick stack of papers about trade rules with the Xantari when her assistant rushed in. "Ambassador, urgent message for you," the young man said, holding out a data tablet with shaking hands. Elaine took the tablet and read the message. Her face quickly lost all color. The message said her son Jack and two other human teenagers had been arrested by Xantari security forces. "Cancel all my meetings today," she told her assistant, already reaching for her communication device. "Get me Director Harrison and call the Colonial Defense Force right away." Within an hour, the small incident had grown into a major problem. The arrest of human children broke three important rules in the Human-Xantari Cohabitation Treaty. What made things worse was that the Xantari refused to release the teenagers immediately. They insisted on following their own legal process first. In the colony's main building, Governor Daniel Martinez called an emergency meeting. As Olivia's father, his face showed both worry and anger as he addressed the team. "The Xanteri have made a serious mistake," he said, looking around the room. "They think they're just following their rules, but they don't understand how humans feel about their children." Lisa Williams, Noah's mother and head of colony security, leaned forward in her chair. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. "We need to make them understand that taking our children isn't just breaking a treaty," she said. "It's triggering every parent's protective instinct in this colony." Ambassador Collins nodded. "The Xanteri don't have families like we do. They lay eggs and leave them in community nests. The young are raised by designated caretakers, not by their biological parents. They simply don't understand the parent-child bond humans have." Director Harrison, the silver-haired head of colonial operations, rubbed his forehead. "So they have no idea what they've just done?" "None at all," confirmed Lisa. "In their eyes, our children are just smaller versions of us with the same legal standing. They don't see the difference between arresting an adult and arresting a child." The room fell silent as everyone considered what this meant. "I've already sent a formal request for the immediate release of the children," Ambassador Collins continued. "But I don't think they understand the urgency." Governor Martinez stood up and walked to the large window overlooking the colony. "How long until parents throughout the colony hear about this?" Lisa Williams checked her device. "Too late. It's already spreading. I'm getting reports of people gathering at the community center. They're organizing." "Organizing what?" asked Director Harrison, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "A rescue mission," Lisa said simply. Ambassador Collins reached for the communication panel. "I need to speak with the Xanteri High Council immediately. We need to make them understand what's happening before this gets out of hand." Outside the window, they could see people hurrying through the streets of the colony, moving with purpose. Parents were gathering tools, equipment, and in some cases, weapons. "We need to move quickly," Governor Martinez said. "The diplomatic approach is our best option, but we need to make the Xanteri understand that this isn't a negotiation. Either they return our children immediately, or they'll face something they've never seen before." "What's that?" asked a junior staff member. Lisa Williams answered with a grim smile. "Human parents fighting for their kids." Xanteri High Counselor Thrixon sat in his large office, confused by the urgent meeting request from the humans. Normally, humans followed all the proper steps and waited for scheduled meetings. This sudden demand suggested something serious had happened. When the large screen on his wall lit up showing Ambassador Collins, Thrixon noticed her tight expression and stiff posture. He had worked with humans long enough to recognize these as signs of strong emotion. "High Counselor, we have a serious problem." Collins began without the usual polite greetings. "3 human juveniles have been detained by your security forces. They must be released immediately." Thrixon tilted his head slightly. "They crossed into restricted territory and handled protected artifacts. Our laws are very clear about this." "Your laws don't account for the fact that these are children," Collins replied, her voice becoming firmer. "In human society, the protection of our young takes priority over almost everything else. Age does not remove responsibility for breaking rules," stated the counselor. Governor Martinez stepped into view beside Ambassador Collins. "Counselor, I don't think you understand. This isn't about avoiding consequences. This is about who handles those consequences. Human parents are programmed by nature to protect their children, even at great personal risk." The Xanteri official blinked his 4 eyes in sequence. "We are familiar with human protective behaviors." "No," said Lisa Williams, joining the conversation with a stern expression. "I don't think you are. When I tell you that every parent in this colony would risk war to get those children back safely, I am not exaggerating." For the first time, Thrixon showed signs of concern. Surely reasonable beings would not start a conflict over 3 rule breakers. "That's exactly what you don't understand," Collins explained. "When it comes to our children, Humans can become very unreasonable. Throughout our entire history, nothing has proven more dangerous than parents protecting their young. An aide rushed to Thrixon's side and whispered something in his ear. The Xantari counselor stiffened visibly. "We have reports of unusual activity at your colony's military facility," he said carefully. "That," Governor Martinez replied grimly, "would be the parents organizing." Thrixon's skin changed to a paler shade of blue, a sign of alarm in Xantari. "Organizing what?" "A rescue mission," Lisa Williams stated flatly. "Those are our children you're holding." The Xantari counselor seemed genuinely confused. "But we have legal processes that must be followed. The juveniles broke our laws." "Let me be very clear," Ambassador Collins said, leaning closer to the screen. "In approximately 3 hours, those children will be back in our colony. The only question is whether they return through diplomatic channels or whether their parents come to get them." "Are you threatening military action?" Thrixon asked in disbelief. "No," Collins said. "I'm trying to prevent it. But you need to understand that I cannot control the response of 300 human parents if they believe their children are in danger. Not even our military could stop them at this point." Another aide approached Thrixon with a data pad showing live images. The counselor's eyes widened as he saw humans gathering equipment, preparing vehicles, and organizing into groups. "Those aren't soldiers," he observed with growing concern. "No," agreed Governor Martinez. "Those are parents, and that makes them far more dangerous in this situation." Thrixon stared at the images for a long moment before turning back to the humans on the screen. "I believe we need to discuss this matter immediately at the highest levels." The new Austin Community Center buzzed with activity. Parents from all parts of the colony rushed in, many still wearing work clothes or carrying tools. Some wore the uniform of the Colonial Defense Force, but most were regular people: teachers, doctors, farmers, and office workers. Alan Grant, a quiet plant scientist whose daughter was friends with Olivia, checked the power level on a mining laser he had modified to cut through barriers. Next to him, Sophia Rodriguez, who taught 5-year-olds at the colony school, handed out communication devices to others. "I don't understand," said Krell, a visitor from the Minoxian species who watched the growing crowd with worry. "These people are not soldiers. Why are they preparing for battle?" Commander Keith Bennett of the Colonial Defense Force gave a small, grim smile. "Because someone took their kids. But there are proper ways to handle this through talking." "Which we're trying at the same time," Bennett cut in. "But these people aren't going to sit around waiting for talk when their children are being held somewhere." Across the room, Dr. Julia Parker, the colony's head doctor, packed medical supplies into bags. "I'm going with the first team," she told Bennett firmly. "Don't try to stop me." "Wouldn't dream of it," he replied. "Olivia is your niece, right?" "Yes, and I've helped deliver or treat most children in this colony. If anyone gets hurt during this rescue, I'm going to be there." The Minoxian visitor watched in amazement as the ordinary citizens organized themselves quickly into an effective team. "Your species is truly strange. These are scientists and teachers, yet they act like trained fighters when threatened." "Not when we're threatened," Bennett corrected. "When our children are threatened. There's a big difference." At the front of the room, a large 3D map showed the Xantari building where the teenagers were being held. Lisa Williams pointed to different parts of the map as she explained the plan. "Remember," she stressed, "this is a rescue mission, not a revenge mission. We get our kids and leave. Use the least force possible. Cause minimal damage." A voice shouted from the back. "Unless they try to stop us." Williams didn't disagree, just said, "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." Near the weapons table, a school teacher named Ben Rogers carefully examined a stun device. The man had never held a weapon before, but his hands were steady. "My son plays soccer with Noah," he explained to the person next to him. "I'm not letting those kids stay in alien custody 1 minute longer than necessary." Outside, the colony's transport vehicles were being prepared. Some were official vehicles, but others were work trucks and personal transporters. Mechanics worked quickly to ready them all for the journey to the Xanteri security complex. Governor Martinez entered the community center and raised his hands for quiet. The room fell silent immediately. "Ambassador Collins is speaking with the Xanteri High Council right now," he announced. "We still hope for a peaceful solution, but we will be ready if diplomacy fails." No one cheered or shouted. Instead, the parents nodded with quiet determination and returned to their preparations. Lisa Williams approached the governor with a datapad. "We have 322 volunteers, 42 vehicles, and enough equipment to breach any Xanteri security measures. We can launch in 30 minutes if necessary." Martinez looked around at the ordinary people who had transformed into a rescue force in just a few hours. "Let's give diplomacy a little more time," he said. "But be ready." A parent standing nearby checked her watch and said simply, "The clock is ticking." On the large Xanteri administrative ship, an emergency meeting had begun. Important officials sat around a curved table, their 4 eyes blinking nervously as they received more reports about what was happening at the human colony. "They have activated their entire defense force," said Security Director Zelvac, pointing to images on the main screen. "And about 300 civilians have armed themselves with work tools and modified equipment." High Counselor Thrixon stared at the data in shock. "All this for 3 young trespassers. This response makes no sense." The door slid open and Professor Nishara hurried in. The normally calm Xanteri scientist who studied human behavior looked genuinely worried. "Counselors, I've just reviewed human historical records about how parents respond when their young are threatened," she said urgently. "I strongly recommend immediate release of the human juveniles." "Explain," demanded Thrixon. "Humans have what they call mama bear, or papa wolf responses, named after dangerous earth animals known for fiercely protecting their young. Throughout human history, parents have shown willingness to ignore self-preservation, social rules, and even logical thinking when their children are in danger." The professor activated a screen showing human records. In their year 1985, a human female of average size lifted a vehicle weighing 2 tons when her child was trapped under it. Physically impossible, yet documented. In 2042, 3 parents broke through a highly secure facility to reach children during a disaster, bypassing systems that should have stopped them. The counselors watched with growing concern as more examples appeared. "This is not reasonable behavior," objected one counselor. "Exactly," agreed Professor Nisera. "And that is what makes it so dangerous. We have been treating humans as beings who make decisions based on logic and best outcomes. But when their young are involved, those rules don't apply. They will accept any cost, including their own destruction." A junior officer interrupted with new information. "We've detected 3 human ships approaching our security facility, and ground vehicles have left the colony." Thrixon's eyes blinked rapidly in distress. They would risk interplanetary war over this. "High Counselor," Professor Nisera said gravely, "they don't see it as a risk. They see it as certain. In their minds, the war began the moment we detained their children." Another council member spoke up. "But this is completely irrational. The juveniles broke our laws. They must face consequences." Professor Nisera shook her head. "You still don't understand. Humans agree their young should face consequences, but only consequences administered by other humans, particularly the parents themselves. Their protective instinct doesn't mean they don't discipline their young. It means they believe only they have the right to do so." Security Director Zelvac checked his communication device. "The human ambassador is requesting to speak with you again, High Counselor." "Put her through," Thrixon said quickly. Ambassador Collins appeared on the main screen. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. "High Counselor, I see your ships have detected our approach. We still prefer a peaceful resolution." "These mobilizations are most concerning, Ambassador," Thrixon replied. "Surely we can resolve this matter without such displays." "That's exactly what I'm trying to do," Collins said. Release our children immediately to our custody, and this situation ends peacefully. Delay further, and I cannot guarantee what will happen. Frixon looked at Professor Nisera, who nodded urgently. Very well, the High Counselor decided. I am ordering the immediate release of the human juveniles. We have much to discuss about this misunderstanding. A wise decision, Ambassador Collins replied, the tension in her shoulders visibly easing. We look forward to a productive conversation about better understanding between our species. Commander Vexlor couldn't understand the urgent orders that had just arrived from Central Command. The 3 human teenagers had been processed according to standard rules. They were sitting comfortably in a clean holding room with food and entertainment screens. Now suddenly, he had to release them immediately and offer formal apologies. This makes no sense, he said to his assistant as they walked to the holding area. We haven't even finished the proper procedures. When they entered the room, they found Jack, Olivia, and Noah sitting together trying different sanitary snacks. These blue cube things taste like cardboard with salt, Jack was saying, but at least they don't wiggle in your mouth like those orange strips. Vexlor made a sound to get their attention. Humans, you are being released immediately. We have arranged transport to return you to your colony. The 3 teenagers looked at each other in surprise. Already? Asked Noah. Did our parents call you? Your parents? Vexlor seemed uncomfortable with the word. Yes, there has been communication. As they walked through the building toward the exit, the teenagers noticed something strange. Sanitary security officers were moving quickly, setting up defense positions and moving equipment. Are you guys expecting trouble? Olivia asked innocently. The sanitary guards said nothing, but walked faster toward the exit doors. Outside, the teens were shocked to see not just a sanitary transport vehicle, but also 2 human ships. One was an official government shuttle. The other was a mining transport that clearly had been modified in a hurry. Standing next to the human ships were Ambassador Collins, Governor Martins, and Lisa Williams, along with what looked like a small army of colony residents. Many were holding work tools and makeshift weapons. When Jack saw his mother, he groaned. Mom, we're fine. You didn't need to bring the entire diplomatic team. Ambassador Collins hugged her son tightly before holding him at arm's length. Do you have any idea what you 3 almost caused? A diplomatic problem, guessed Olivia, looking nervously at her father. Governor Martinez shook his head, more like an interplanetary incident. As the teenagers reunited with their parents and the rescue team, High Counselor Thrixon approached Ambassador Collins. We offer formal apologies for detaining your juveniles, the Xantari official said. It appears there has been a serious misunderstanding about human protective responses to offspring. Collins nodded. I believe we need to talk more about our treaty, especially regarding our children. Indeed, agreed Thrixon. Our scientists have clearly missed important aspects of human behavior. This has been educational. As the human group prepared to return to their colony, Jack turned to his mother. Were you guys really going to attack a Xantari security building? For us. Ambassador Collins looked at the gathered parents, scientists, teachers, engineers, all of whom had been ready to break into an alien facility without hesitation. Let's just say, she replied with a small smile, that the Xantari now understand human nature much better. Behind them, Dr. Julia Parker was checking the teenagers for any signs of harm or stress. We're fine, Aunt Julia, Olivia insisted. They actually treated us well. Just boring paperwork and weird food. Nevertheless, the doctor said firmly, I want all 3 of you in my clinic tomorrow for a full checkup. As the humans boarded their ships, High Counselor Thrixon watched with new respect and caution. He turned to Professor Nisera, who stood beside him. Update all our diplomatic protocols regarding humans, he ordered, especially anything involving their young. We must never make this mistake again. Already started, High Counselor, the professor replied. I believe this incident will improve our understanding of humans significantly. Indeed, Frickson said, watching the human ships lift off. Though I prefer learning through less dramatic methods. 2 weeks after what colony residents now called the almost rescue, many changes were already happening in how humans and Xanteri worked together. The treaty between both species had a new section about how to handle children from either species. Xanteri scientists were now spending time watching human families, while human social workers learned about how Xanteri raised their young. In the Collins home, Jack was still grounded. Even though the incident almost caused a war, breaking colony rules about going to dangerous places still had consequences. He sat at the kitchen table writing an apology letter to the Xanteri group that protected historical sites. "This is so unfair," he complained as his mother checked his work. "We nearly started a space war, which would have been the coolest thing ever. And now I'm stuck writing sorry letters." Ambassador Collins raised an eyebrow. "Would you rather I let the Xanteri handle your punishment? They're very interested in studying how humans discipline their children." Jack suddenly found new energy for his letter writing. At the colony's main office, Governor Martinez was meeting with Professor Nisera, the Xanteri scientist, who now worked as the cultural connection between both species. "I must admit," the professor said, "our people have really underestimated how complex human feelings are, especially about your children." "It's not that complicated," Martinez replied. "We love our kids. We protect them. Even to the point where you might destroy yourselves," Nisera noted. "It's amazing from a science view. Most species develop protective feelings based on chances of survival." Martinez smiled. "That's where you're still missing the point. For us, there is no calculation, no thinking about chances. When it comes to our children, the answer is simple: whatever it takes." That evening, the 3 teenagers gathered at Noah's house. Their parents had agreed they could spend time together as long as adults were nearby during their punishment period. "Do you think they would really have attacked the Xanteri building?" Noah asked, still amazed at how quickly the colony had organized. Olivia nodded confidently. "My dad had that look. You know, the one he gets when someone threatens our family." "My mom was wearing her special negotiations outfit," Jack added, "the one she calls her battle armor. She only wears that when she's ready to either make peace or declare war, with nothing in between." The teens sat quietly, thinking about the fact that the adults they sometimes found embarrassing were too strict, had been ready to face alien security forces for them. "We should probably try not to get arrested by aliens again," Noel suggested. "Agreed," said Jack and Olivia together. Outside the Williams home, the 2 moons of Kepler 186 have shone light on the growing colony, humans and Xanteri living side by side, now with a better understanding of their basic differences and surprising similarities. Throughout the settlement, human parents went about their evening routines, the recent crisis already becoming just a story to tell. They cooked meals, checked homework, enforced bedtimes, all the normal jobs of being parents that hid what the Xanteri now recognized as one of the strongest forces in the galaxy. In the Xanteri administrative building, new training programs were already teaching security forces about human parent behavior. The first rule, displayed prominently on the wall: raid. When dealing with human juveniles, contact parents immediately. Do not detain. Do not process. Safety of all depends on following this protocol. High Counselor Frickson had personally approved this new rule. When asked by his staff if the warning was too strong, he simply replied, "Not strong enough. We almost started a war without realizing it." Remember the lesson: never stand between humans and their young.